The one thing I have learned when doing this podcast is you have to go with the flow. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you thought. I had set up this interview with Meg a few weeks ago, but then had to travel and now dealing with major flight delays. So I'm sitting here at the Detroit airport waiting for my flight. And Meg was kind enough to continue with the podcast. So that's what we did. It's a different location, but the same great Dogs Devotion podcast you've come to expect. I have learned just to roll with it as things happen. So on today's episode, it will make you smile, not only because of my location, but because of my guest. She is a mom who has an amazing dog. This episode will make you think and maybe even change the way you look at your own dog. My guest is Meg Jarvis, the devoted dog mom to Ruby, the incredible canine communicator behind the account at Ruby Say So. Ruby is just 11 months old and she is learning to talk. Literally, she uses special sound buttons. Ruby now has access to 25 words and she uses them to tell Meg what she wants, how she feels, and even to send text messages to her mom. Yes, she gets text messages to her mom on her phone. What began as a fun experiment has turned into an extraordinary journey of connection and intelligence. Ruby now communicates her needs, her preferences, her moods, and so many people have been captivated by her. She has already been featured on CBC and Newsweek, and her ability to express herself is opening the world to new conversations about what her dogs truly understand. I'm thrilled to have Meg join me today on A Dog's Devotion to talk about how it all started, what Ruby's learning, and how this unique form of communication is deepening their bond. Ruby reminds us that dogs are not just listening, they are thinking, feeling, and waiting for the chance to be heard. So let's get started. Welcome to A Dog's Devotion, the heartfelt podcast for every dog lover. Here we celebrate the unbreakable bond between humans and their dogs. Each week we sit down with inspiring guests who share powerful stories of love, resilience, and devotion. From the joy of adoption to the heartbreak of loss and the healing that follows, this is a space where we honor our best friends, the ones who leave paw prints on our hearts forever. On today's episode of A Dog's Devotion, it's all about connection, the kind that goes far beyond wagging tails and soft eyes. My guest, Meg, is a devoted dog mom behind the viral sensation at Ruby Say So, a brilliant, curious dog who communicates using buttons. Yes, the dog actually uses buttons. Ruby presses words like play, outside, sad, mommy, and even phrases that show emotions, needs, and thoughts. What Meg has created with Ruby is more than a novelty. It's a window into how deeply our dogs understand us and how much they want to be understood and returned. By teaching Ruby to express herself through sound buttons, Meg has opened up a world of two-way communication that is fascinating, emotional, and truly groundbreaking. Today, we'll talk about how Ruby learned this skill, what Meg has discovered about canine intelligence and emotional depth, and how this special journey has strengthened their bond. This is an episode for anyone who has ever looked into their dog's eyes and just wished they could speak back. Meg, it's a pleasure. Thanks for putting up with all this morning. It's finally nice to talk to you in person.
Thanks for having me today.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. What first inspired you to teach Ruby how to communicate with buttons?
Yeah, so I've been kind of keeping an eye on some big social media accounts for a long time that have been using the buttons. And we had to say goodbye to our senior dog back in March, and I knew that when we would get another dog, that this was something that I wanted to do right from the beginning with her.
Right. So was there another dog on Instagram that you follow? Because I know that there's one called about about Bunny who's got
What
8
about
million
Bunny?
followers. What about
Yeah,
Bunny? Right.
yeah. Yeah, so that's the main one that she's one of the pioneers in the field, and she's the main one that I was aware of. And now since I've become more involved in the space, we call it alternative interspecies communication. And so now that I'm more involved in the AIC space, there are a lot more dogs and different kinds of animals that also use these talking buttons. That it's
So
just so fascinating to watch.
yeah, I've never heard of this before. So it's called ACI.
AIC.
AIC. Okay. And now how do you learn more about it?
So it was originally started by someone who is her name is Christina Hunger. She is a speech language pathologist, and she noticed that her puppy was exhibiting a lot of same signs that a toddler exhibits when they're about to move into saying their first words, and like it's about like body language communication. And so she realized, well, maybe I can use the same kind of tools that she uses in speech language pathology for helping nonverbal children. That she could use those same kinds of tools for her dog. And so she just started out with a few buttons and did a lot of experimenting. And really, like, the field has only existed for uh, maybe 7 or 8 years now. So it's really new. But there are a lot of research is being done about animal behavior as a result of this. So there's still a lot of learning to happen about
Yeah, but it's great that
puppies.
people are actually starting to pay attention and realize that dogs are a little more intelligent maybe than what we originally thought. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and they really have these cohesive thoughts and concrete thoughts. It's not just like all sorts of jumbled in their head. They really do have desires, and it's just so amazing to be able to give them the ability to express specifically what they want, rather than having to do it with body language alone. And just on that note, it's really important to keep in mind when we start using these buttons that we don't all of a sudden disregard every other form of communication that dogs have, because body language is such a core part of who they are and how they communicate. So we don't disregard that at all. The buttons are just one extra way that they can start to communicate with us.
So, was it easy to teach Ruby how to touch the buttons? Like, how did the whole process start? That's what I'm really curious about. And teaching her to press a button to let you know what she wanted or what she was feeling.
Yeah, so I started with the wrong words, to be perfectly frank.
Okay.
I started with words that were interesting and useful to me. So she was a puppy, and I thought, okay, well, outside is a great one because we're training her to go outside for pees and poos. And I saw Bunny using the word help, and I thought, oh, that's really great. If her toy rolls under the couch, that would be a really helpful word to have. And there were a couple of others, and she just had no interest in pressing them. And like outside, she was a puppy in April in Canada. It was freezing cold. She had no desire to go outside, so she didn't want to press the button. So I learned that when you pick your first three words for your dog, you want to make sure that they're highly repeatable. So things that you can do over and over and over again. If they press it, then you can do it right away so that they start to make that connection. You want them to be highly motivating, so something that they really want, because then that encourages them to repeat that behavior. And then the last thing is you want them to do really concrete things. So things like help, that's a pretty tricky and abstract concept. But things like Kong, which is a rubber toy that we give to dogs that's stuffed with yummy things, a Kong is a concrete item that she was able to make a connection with. Once I learned this and I switched over to the new buttons, she got the word Kong within a day. Like she
She
knew I
did.
press this button, I
Yeah.
get a Kong. And the way that we made it highly repeatable was I would put just a tiny bit of peanut butter in it. So it would take her maybe 2 minutes to get the peanut butter out. And then she'd come back and press Kong again, and I could give her more and more and more.
Now, there's also an app so that you can see this on your phone. So how does that work?
Yeah, so the buttons that I have, this is the Fluent Pet Connect system, and
Okay.
it'll all of the buttons are connected up to this speaker, which is Wi-Fi enabled. It's so when Ruby presses a button, bone, for example, because she's chewing a bone. When she presses a button, the sound comes out of the speaker, and then this is connected to Wi-Fi, which is connected to my phone. So wherever I am, I get a message on my phone saying that Ruby has pressed the button bone. And so this is great for just for letting me know, like if I'm in the other room and I didn't hear what she pressed, then I can check my phone to see what she said. But it's also really great for I'm a data nerd, and I love to see the history and be able to filter on the different words that she said and make connections. There was when I was going through my video footage, I noticed that she had said a specific combination of words, and it's bed toy. And she says those two words specifically together on their own multiple times. And I never picked up on it, just like interacted with her going through the, the history in the app. I could see that she's saying this a lot. I don't know what it means yet. Um, trying to get together and trying to figure it out eventually.
I think that's amazing. So, what has she learned so far?
So her favorite word is Kong. That's right,
Because
right.
that's her toy filled
Yeah.
with peanut butter or something delicious for a dog,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Uh, and then her most recently, her favorite word is help. It's a new word that I recently added to the board because she was using the phrase want Kong a lot, but she used it specifically to mean I want a Kong, sure. She also used it to say my Kong has rolled under the couch and I need help getting it out. And
Right.
she also used it one time to tell me she wanted a yummier Kong. It was already stuffed with
You're
stuff.
kidding.
Yeah, it was already stuffed with stuff, and I was showing it to her, and she was kinda, like, turning up her nose at it, but I went and put yummier stuff in the Kong, and she took it. So, we realized that we needed to kind of branch out a little bit. I added the word "help" to give her some more depth to her words. I don't think she quite has it yet, like, 'cause what I want help to mean is, "I need you to do something that I can't do for myself." Right now,
So
she's using it
what
as
I try
a,
to do is whenever she
"Come
presses
here
help,
and
I
give me attention,
dramatically
give
get
me
down on
help, like, I wanna play." The floor and try to, like, look under the couches, and if I can find a toy, then I'll get out that toy and say, "Oh, mama, help ball," to kind of reinforce that this is what help means. Help doesn't mean play with me.
I think this is absolutely incredible. How many words can an animal learn?
So the research says that the average family dog can learn up to 70 words. And keep in mind that they're not necessarily button words. They're like your dog may learn, come on. If you're like, because I use that when we're walking all the time and she's having a sniff and I'm ready to move on, I'll say, come on, or let's go. So those would count as words in her vocabulary that they're not on the board. Um,
Right.
and then with focused learning, they say that dogs can learn up to 150 words. Um,
150.
and then
Oh,
some super learners, like the really, really smart ones, can learn up to have been recorded as learning up to 1,000 words.
do they do they learn these words by touching the button?
I,
it's
I try to have
really
a
like
solid foundation of
learning
the word
the word
before
and
I
learning
add
the
it to the
button
board, though.
go
Like hand in hand, I would say. When we were adding help to the board, it wasn't out of the blue. I've been using the word help since we got her. Every time I go under the couch to get a ball, I'll say help ball to start building that vocabulary. So when I do add it to the board, it's not a new word to her. We do still need to do some work on solidifying exactly what the word means. Her gotcha day is March
Right.
28th.
And how long have
Okay.
you
And
been
I had
working
the
with
buttons
Ruby
within
to
two
get her
weeks
to
of that.
learn these
So
words?
like so we got mid-April and now it's kind of coming up on mid-December. So 7 months, 8 months, something
Eight
like that.
months.
Yeah. So
And
we have
she's come
25
this
buttons
far
right now.
already. So
A
you
lot
can
of
imagine
those
what's
were
going to
added
happen in a
fairly
couple of
early
years from
on.
now as you
And right
continue
now
to
I'm
teach
kind of
her.
in a holding. Yeah. 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 Phase, making sure that she has a really solid understanding of these words before I start to add too many more. I do have a love you button queued up. I have it's sitting beside the couch. So anytime we're having like a nice little tender moment and kind of making some eye contact, then I'll press the love you button to start to, again, build that association. I don't want to put
Right.
it on the until she fully understands that one because there's just so much meaning. I don't want to be misinterpreting what she's saying. Like when she presses it, I want her to mean it.
Right. It still amazes me. Does
Her
she
nose.
use her
My board
her
is
nose to
mounted
touch
against
the
most
buttons, or does she use
AIT
her
users
paw?
have. Yeah, so she uses her have their boards on the floor. Our house is small, and I actually really like this vertical setup. I think like some people's boards are like several feet across in both directions, and so I feel like things in the middle might not get used as much because they're harder to reach. But this way, all of the buttons are just as easy to access for Ripley. That's my daughter's name, Ruby.
Ruby.
And so I feel like she won't have a preference for any particular word just based on its location. It will be because she loves that word or what happens when she presses it.
Right. Are there any buttons she uses, Meg, in a way that surprised you or made you a little more emotional?
So she She has buttons for our names. So she has
Button.
mama and daddy, and
That was her
Ruby is my
favorite
daughter,
for
and
a
she has
while.
a
She
button
would
for
press
her
Ruby
own
a
name
lot.
as well. And at first, when we added the Ruby,
Cute.
she's kind of moved away from pressing names very much. However, we were having a little argument about Kongs the other day where she kept on pressing Kong and I would say Kong all done, and she would try a different combination of words to try and convince me that
Interesting.
she should have a Kong. And then eventually she pressed Kong Mama, and that just took me out.
But that must have melted your heart when, I mean, you had to give in when she did that.
Yeah.
When did you first notice that she, like, I mean, obviously she's using emotional words correctly. She understands that there's emotion attached to these words.
Yeah, so we don't have actually specific emotion words yet on the board. That is definitely a plan, and a lot of the AIC users do have emotions, but we are priming those things. Just like I said, we use the help word right from the beginning. We also have happy and sad and concerned and angry when I notice that she's feeling those emotions, then I say those words so that she starts to make that connection with what the word and what she's feeling.
How does like I've been a dog mom my whole life, but I look at how my dog acts for to give me a sense of what he's feeling or what he's thinking or what he wants. I
To
know if he
actually
sits by the
know how
door, he
your
wants to go
dog is
outside.
feeling.
If he's going by the kitchen, he wants something to eat. But what's it like?
It's really great. I have also had several dogs in the past, and this is different because it's really forcing me to listen a lot more and really making me realize how much of an individual being she is.
Yes, yeah,
Um, and so, like, my tagline on my Instagram is, "She's a dog learning to talk, and I'm a human learning to listen." And it really
yes,
is just as much about learning to listen because she presses things. Um, and admittedly, there is some babbling that happens. We call it babbling in the AIC space just as a toddler likes to make blah, blah, blah sounds. They like to experiment with what they can say. Dogs learning to press buttons also do that. But there is also very clear and deliberate pressing, just like I said with how she presses bed toy and that specific combination on its own. And I don't know what it means yet, but that's me learning to listen. And I have to listen
Right.
to all of the content around and put it together. And whatever that ends up meaning, then that's what it will be. If bed toy ends up meaning I want to go to the basement, then sure.
right.
But like we will work with whatever she comes up with.
Have there been? I mean, it sounds like there's been some really happy and emotional times as she's touched buttons and you've learned how she's been feeling. But uh, is there an opposite to that? Are there times where it's a little more difficult or stressful for you when she's pressing buttons and it makes you feel bad or upset?
Really, it's when I'm not home and I get those
Right.
notifications on my phone that she's pressed something like that. That's hard. And with my setup for my Instagram and in my living room here, I have 4 different cameras pointing in every direction so that we can capture all of the interactions. And so it's nice, but on the other hand, she presses those buttons and then I can open the app and look at her being sad or whatever it might be. Sometimes I think ignorance can be bliss. If I didn't know it, I wouldn't be feeling that guilt.
That's right. Yeah, I can understand if you're not home and your dog is pushing buttons and acting sad, that would break my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, now that she's learning to touch buttons and obviously she's going to learn to touch more, how has this changed the relationship and communication between the two of you?
Yeah, so I mean, with Ruby specifically, I've never known her really other than those first 2 weeks that we had her. I've never known her without having the buttons. So it's been an evolution of our relationship. But I can kind of talk about how it's different from my previous dogs that I've had. And with them, the communication was always very much my body language, and me just assuming that I knew what they wanted or what they were feeling. And with Ruby, I have a lot more confidence that um that I know, and so I can give her what she wants, and I can not do things that she doesn't want.
Right. Now you've touched a lot of people in the community. You've been on CBC, Newsweek. You've gotten some press because this is really interesting. It's big news, and I hope it continues to grow for you. Your
Thank you.
Instagram account is really interesting because you show um, all these. You said you've got 4 cameras set up around your home. Oh, there's Ruby there.
Oh, oh, she's right here.
So cute.
Yeah, good. Come on.
What kind of dog is she, Meg?
She is a rescue mix, a mystery. Come on. Good.
Oh,
Here.
okay, so is Max. I think she's from Mexico too, isn't she?
She came from Chicago.
She came from Chicago. Okay,
Yeah.
nice. Is there peanut butter in the car?
There is wet dog food, which is even better than peanut butter.
Right. Okay. So can you tell us what your Instagram account is? Because I want people to take a look at what you're doing, and you post constantly. And your videos, I'm just looking at it right now, are so interesting because, you know, my goodness, you've got when your siblings probably want to sleep and you end up with a lady who's teaching you English instead of fetch, and she's just lying down. I mean, it's really great. So what is your Instagram account?
Yeah, so it's Ruby Says So. And yeah, I post a combination of videos about Ruby learning to speak and our interactions and the misadventures of those as well sometimes.
Yeah.
And then other just dog content so that people can get to know Ruby as well, just outside of the buttons, because that's only one aspect of our relationship is the button speaking. And then she's a dog and she does
Yeah.
dog things.
And dogs are the best. What are have you gotten messages from people that follow you? Any meaningful messages from followers that you'd like to share?
I get comments on the videos that I place, and the most meaningful ones are just the ones that people when people say that they can relate to the like whatever emotion is coming across in the video. I really appreciate that kind of thing.
Yeah. And have you connected with other pet parents teaching their dogs to communicate?
Locally, no, I haven't met anybody in person, but since I've become more involved in the community on Instagram, and I'm actually a a guide, or it's kind of like an ambassador with Fluent Pet, the company that makes these buttons, and so I've been able to connect with some of their other guides as well.
Right.
And it's really, really inspiring to see the ones who have been doing it for quite a while because they really have a very mature approach to it. I'm still learning. I've only been doing this for 8 months.
Right.
And I make mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes. But there was one person in particular who was having a whole conversation with her animals, and she was doing something exactly the way that I want to do it, and that was only using the words that she has on buttons, and it's almost like it's a totally different language because you take out all the filler words that we would use in English, and it's kind of like caveman speech. You just use that like the very basic words, and I was thrilled to hear it because that's exactly what my goal is. Right now, we don't have enough words to do that.
Right.
Yeah, but I love it.
You mentioned just a few minutes ago about the company that makes these boards and these buttons. Who are they? Like, who came up with this idea in the first place?
Yeah, so the company that makes the buttons that we use is called Fluent Pet. They have a couple different button systems. One that I use is the Fluent Pet Connect, which connects to my app. There are some other companies that make buttons as well, but Fluent Pet is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest in the space.
Really? So obviously this is something that is it worldwide or is it in North America?
There are definitely some accounts that I follow that are non-English speaking. So yeah,
Okay, so for people who are listening and want to start teaching their dog this, how do they start?
start by getting 3 buttons. And you can go to find the Fluent Pet website, or there's a link in my Instagram bio as well. Start by getting 3 buttons and be patient. Sometimes animals will pick it up right away. Sometimes it'll take them a month or 2 before they will start pressing the buttons, but be patient. It does happen. Um, yeah, and Fluent Pet specifically offers a lot of free resources for getting started as well. Like one class that I attended was picking your first 3 words, and that's how I made the correction to the words that I had picked. And they also have one called Surviving the Spamming Stage, because a lot of young dogs, just like toddlers and babies, they'll just say whatever they can because all of a sudden they have this new thing that they can do. Uh,
Right.
and so surviving is is a thing that you do. But yeah, so Fluent Pet has been an excellent resource for me, aside from being just the source for buying the buttons. They also have an online community as well that you
They
can join. And
and you know, it's great when you have a community and you have other pet parents that you can talk to and discuss what's working and what's not. And
yeah,
yeah,
and celebrate your successes and your wins
of
too, because
course.
as much as I love this, not everybody wants to hear about it all the time. So it's nice to be able to share it with people who really are cheering for you and are interested to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fascinating. It makes me think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, but dogs have been trying to talk to us for years, and maybe this is a simple tool for them to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I said at the beginning, it's kind of one more tool in their toolbox for their communication, because they do, like, dogs can communicate so much just with their eye contact, right? And just like
Yes,
looking you in the eyes, I feel like you can learn a lot of what they're saying and their body language. But it's just one more tool that they can use to be more specific about
right.
what they're thinking.
What is one moment with Ruby that made you think, you know, dogs know so much more than we give them credit for?
Know so much more than we give them credit for. I just like I think probably the argument that I had with her last week about the Kong. We're just going back and forth, and I've seen the videos of other animals doing it with their humans, but um, I it's not that I didn't believe it, but I had a hard time really it, to have it really sink in, and to have her go back and forth and know that she's understanding me and that she's trying something different was really cool too. Like, she tried different phrases. Uh,
Does this not? I would think this kind of communication that you have with Ruby is bringing you closer together.
I mean, I think so.
Yeah,
It is a really cool experience to be her human. And while there are two other humans in this house as well, I'm definitely the one who work from home, so I spend most of my time with her.
right.
Um, we go anywhere we can together, and it's a really
I
cool.
used to do that too. Isn't it the best?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Now, are you, is this specific for one person to teach a dog, or can your husband and your daughter teach Ruby to use the buttons too, or does it just have to be you?
Yeah, so no, it's definitely a whole household experience.
Okay.
When my daughter comes home from school, she walks in the door and she presses Ripley home, because we're
She
still.
does?
Yeah, yeah. Like, my daughter presses Ripley home.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that Ruby starts to learn, what home means, because there are some words like Kong, or like that are objects that are easy to teach because it's a very physical thing, but the concept of home is not a concrete thing, and so that's something that's learned more over time and through repetition. And so yeah, my daughter does it, and my husband does as well. And even within the app, the Fluent Pet app, there is that history of all of the button presses, but I can actually assign all of the presses. The default presser is Ruby, so it automatically assumes that she's the one who presses it. But when I press a button, oh, Kong, yes, Kong is here. Kong is here. Like, it's all done.
That's incredible, Meg.
But I can go in and reassign it to say that I was the one who pressed the button, or Ripley, or my husband was. And that way, when I go through the data down the road, I can see exactly what she pressed versus we did, and what the impact of that might be.
It's amazing. What do you hope to attain? What do you hope to reach with your Instagram account and with Ruby learning words?
Not really sure. I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And I hope to grow my account so that I can share our story with more people.
Yeah.
I would love it if more people would do this, because like I've said it before, I just think it's fascinating, so interesting. It but it gives the dogs a voice that they didn't have before, and it allows them to kind of advocate for themselves and argue if they really want to con. um,
Right.
and yeah, it really allows them to speak up. So it would be really great if more people would give it a try. Um,
Yeah. Well, let's get more people to follow you on Instagram. What's your Instagram account again?
it's at Ruby Says So.
Okay. And you have to check it out because, as I mentioned, the videos on there that you post, Meg, are really great. I think what you're doing is fascinating, and it just makes me think of next time I get another dog. Maybe this is something that I should try, and a different way to communicate with my dog.
I so recommend it. And one other thing is that it doesn't take, like, people think that or assume that it takes up a huge time commitment or requires a huge time commitment, but it doesn't. Like, the first introduction of the buttons may take a little bit of repetition, but it doesn't take any more time than training your dog to sit or whatever else you might be doing with a dog, and it just opens up a new world for them, so
Yeah,
it's so worth it.
I think so too. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me and for working with Ruby and opening up my eyes to something that I've never heard of before.
Thank you for having me, it's been really fun.
Well, thanks for sharing Ruby's incredible voice with us today and for reminding the world that our dogs are not just listening, they're thinking, feeling, and communicating in ways we're only beginning to understand. Ruby's journey shows that when we slow down, pay attention, and give our dogs a chance to express themselves, the bond becomes deeper, richer, and more meaningful. To everyone listening, make sure you follow Ruby's adventures at Ruby Say So. She will absolutely brighten your day and maybe even inspire you to try speaking your dog's language. As always, thank you for being part of A Dog's Devotion. Our dogs' lives are short, so love them as hard as you can. Thanks so much again, Meg. It's a pleasure meeting you, and it's nice meeting Ruby too. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Carla.
Okay, have a great holiday.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on A Dog's Devotion. If today's story touched your heart, share it with a fellow dog lover. And remember, whether they're by your side or watching over you, our dogs are our greatest teachers of love, loyalty, and living in the moment. Until next time, give your pup an extra hug and never forget the devotion of a dog. I'm your host, Carla Bisacki. Thanks for joining me.